On behalf of myself, FreedomWorks, and everyone in America that has a phone, we are filing suit against the President of the United States in defense of the Fourth Amendment. We will ask the question in court whether a single warrant can apply to the records of every American phone user all of the time, without limits, without individualization.
We believe that the program as it exists is lawful. We're not alone. It has been found to be lawful by multiple courts, and it receives oversight from all three branches of government, including the Congress.
All right, let's talk about it with our panel. Senator Rand Paul, possibly a 2016 contender, sounding a lot like it, filing a lawsuit against several members of the administration, most notably the president. AB, he says if you have a phone, basically you could be a plaintiff in this class action.
And that's technically true. And it's going to have a lot of appeal to disaffected Democrats and Republicans, independent voters, libertarian-leaning voters, and particularly young voters who believe that they can go on the internet and do whatever they want, and no one is ever going to trace anything that they're doing because they have a right to privacy. So Rand Paul is very shrewd. Of course, you said he sounds like a 2016 contender. He sounds more like one than any of the wannabes that we watch day in and day out. He's very shrewd at making sure he stays in the news and finds a way to appeal to that sector of the electorate that he hopes he can bring under the Republican tent and particularly attract to his candidacy. He's done a number of things to do that. I think Rand Paul versus Barack Obama is another good way to do it. There are certainly people who believe that this is an outrage and it's illegal, and I think he will attract a lot of attention.
Well, and as the Justice Department noted today, they said we remain confident that the program is legal, as at least 15 judges have previously found. And you know, in December we got the ruling from the one federal judge who said no, and he basically called this Orwellian in nature. That was federal judge Richard Leon, and said, you know, it looks pretty unconstitutional.
Leon was fairly unrestrained in his judgment, and you know, there is one district court that says, as he did, obviously, and the one that said the opposite, that it is constitutional. So, look, this case was going to end up in the Supreme Court as is because of the conflict between the district courts. So in some sense, what Rand is doing is superfluous, but it is brilliant showmanship. He's utterly sincere in this, but he's also shrewd and clever. You know, when Game Change 3 comes out in 2017, what they'll write about this is that Rand Paul saw an opening when Christie stumbled over the bridge gate, and he shot himself up into sort of the lead, if you like, or at least the most prominent of contenders. And he's done it now with 3 events: the filibuster on the drone attacks, this thing which I'm not sure how smart it is, which is to attack the Clintons on Lewinsky, but now a third item, which is the most important, because a lot of the loss of Obama's popularity is NSA among liberal young. Mm-hmm. It's not just conservatives and Obamacare and independents. And that is exactly the constituency that Rand is looking at in opposing Obama, especially on NSA.
And Steve, but of course it brings up questions about other potential lawsuits on the Hill with all the modifications to Obamacare and other things that the House, you know, there's a move afoot there to get a House resolution going that would allow the House to sue based on the fact that this is their work product, it's being modified. When asked by one news outlet, Speaker John Boehner's spokesman said, we're examining all of our options. Do you think now that this lawsuit has been filed, others will step up? And we know Senator Ron Johnson's got a different lawsuit going as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it encourages legislators who feel helpless to otherwise make their case to do something like this. I think this has more likelihood of success, this Rand Paul, this new lawsuit, because of the standing issue. It's much more likely to be able to point to people who have phones, as he did today, and say, look, this affects them, we have standing, whereas that argument, I think, is a little more difficult in Congress. I mean, it's clearly a political stunt. Nobody should be under any illusions that this is anything more than that, even if the case moves, there are similar cases. This is already happening somewhere. So it's totally it's not partially superfluous in my view. It's totally superfluous. And it might elevate him in a certain sense, but didn't he already occupy that ground anyway? I think he did. I mean, it's not like there was somebody else who was going to come up and take over the worried about NSA crowd among Republicans and maybe young Democrats. I think there is a political downside potentially, and that is if we have another attack. Now, the proponents of this program have had a difficult time saying point A to point B, we stopped this attack because of this. But at the same time, if there's a major attack here on U.S. soil, that's going to be hard to explain.
And one of the things that Judge Leon said in his ruling was that he didn't, I believe it was him, he didn't see the connecting of the dots, that the administration hadn't been able to show that this metadata collection had stopped anything. But you're right, very big potential downside. All right, that's it for the panel.